Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses as we continue to address the Francis Bacon and William Shakespeare controversy. The following is taken from the All-Seeing Eye, Volume 3, Number 3, Wednesday, December the 8th, 1926. Were Bacon and Shakespeare Rosicrucians? An interesting old portrait of Francis Bacon. The engraving that accompanies this article is reproduced from the title page of the 1640 edition of the Achievement of Advancement and Proficience of Learning. It offers an interesting comparison with the Droeshout portrait of Shakespeare, which we addressed in the last video. Compare carefully the two noses. You will note the unmistakable likeness between the nose of Shakespeare and that of Bacon. A comparison of the eyes will also disclose a startling likeness. The 1640 edition of the Advancement and Proficience of Learning contains, among other important documents, the bilateral cipher organized by Bacon when he was about 16 years old and residing in Paris. An example of the bilateral cipher is to be found in the Latin text under the portrait. If you compare carefully the formation of the letters, you will see that there are two completely separate alphabets used. Some of the A's are adorned with little flags, while others are plain. The same is true for the H's. There is also a marked difference in the R's, especially noticeable in the length of the tails, or final strokes. The differences, minute as they may seem, disclose the presence of Bacon's famous bilateral cipher. Another interesting point in connection with Bacon's ciphers is the fact that in almost every book in which they appear, there are errors in the pagination. These errors most commonly involve the 89th page, which has often been called the Baconian page, 89 being a cryptic signature for Sir Francis Bacon. In the 1640 edition of the Advancement and Proficience of Learning, page 289 faces page 216 and is backed up by page 218. Pages involving the number 89 are repeatedly incorrect in the first folio of Shakespeare. In Burton's Autonomy of Melancholy, long suspected of being Francis Bacon's scrapbook, page 189 is entirely missing. In the first edition of Bacon's Advancement and Proficience of Learning, London, 1605, leaf 87 is followed by leaf 79 instead of 89. The peculiar chain of mistakes appearing in literally dozens of volumes indicates, in all probability, the presence of a Baconian cipher in whichever book the faulty pagination appears. Francis Bacon has long been considered as a Rosicrucian initiate. His remarkable work, The New Atlantis, is a Rosicrucian enigma. There is a story afloat, concerning which certain Masonic brethren are supposed to have information, to the effect that the supposed death and burial of Francis Bacon were a mock ceremony and that he changed his name and moved to Germany, where he published under the name Jonah Valentine Andrea. The chemical marriage of Christian Rosicrucian, one of the first and most famous of Rosicrucian manifestos. While it is difficult to prove such a theory, there are many things that point to the probability of the story. Bacon was one of the most brilliant minds that Europe ever produced and is considered by many to be the father of all modern science. He remodeled the British law, establishing systems of jurisprudence which remain active to this day. The cryptograms in his various documents point to the fact that he was actually the son of Queen Elizabeth and the Earl of Leicester. The original marriage contract is said to be in existence at the present time, but the unhappy and sudden death of the Earl caused Queen Elizabeth to conceal the marriage. This being the case, Francis Bacon was the true heir to the throne of England, but he was never able to claim his title. the secret which he possessed to the effect that he was the legitimate heir to the throne is now believed by Baconian experts to be the prime cause of the unwarranted persecution heaped upon him by his contemporaries. Apparently realizing that he could not hope for justice during his own lifetime, Bacon left to posterity the labor of vindicating him and accrediting him with that knowledge and power which was his legitimate right. He therefore went to infinite pains to conceal within his documents the secret of his own unhappy life. He was a king who could never claim his throne, persecuted for the fact that he never knew his own birthright. He dared not reveal it, for it would have cost him his life. So he wrote it into his books, concealing it in ciphers, enveloping it in enigmatic statements, which are meaningless unless the reader is acquainted with the tragedy of the author. In order to protect his position and divert suspicion from himself, he assumed various names, writing his books and accrediting them to either actual or imaginary personages. It seems to have been at this point that William Shakespeare, the obscure actor, appears upon the scene. Was Shakespeare a member of the Rosicrucian Brotherhood, selected to be the left hand of Francis Bacon, that through him this monumental genius might leave his posterity a vast store of occultic information and secret Rosicrucian mysticism, within which was concealed the true identity of the secret author? For centuries, there seems to have been a concentrated effort to conceal the true authorship of the Shakespearean plays. This would lead one to believe that Bacon was connected with some secret organization or group which even after his death continued to constantly maintain the subterfuge. A good example of this is to be found in the inscription upon the grave of William Shakespeare, which was originally written in peculiar cryptogrammatic characters, and which was later replaced by another stone containing the same words, but recut so as to destroy the cipher in the original writing. An investigation of this cryptogram, according to the researchers Ignatius Donnelly, reveals the name of Francis Bacon as being secretly written upon the tombstone of Shakespeare. While newspaper type makes it impossible to reproduce exactly the lines of the old inscription, we believe you would be interested in reading Shakespeare's epitaph, which is as follows. Good friend, for Jesus' sakes, forbear to dig the dust enclosed here. Blessed be the man that spares these stones, and cursed be he that moves my bones. From these 4 lines, Ignatius Donnelly extracts the following words. Francis Bacon wrote the Green, Marlowe, and Shakespeare plays. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. If you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. The links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description below. Even a few dollars is very helpful. Thank you very much.